Jai Gurudev and welcome to both of you. Today we are going to delve into a deeply spiritual conversation from the Ramayana. The moment when Lord Ram is preparing to leave for his 14-year exile and Sita, his wife, insists on accompanying him, this conversation offers powerful insights into devotion, duty, and the nature of love. I am honored to be joined by two esteemed guests, officer from the Vedic Dharma Sansthan and an expert from the art of living. Let's begin with you, officer. In the Ramayana, when Lord Ram is ordered to go into exile, Sita's immediate response is to insist on accompanying him. Why do you think this moment is so pivotal? Jai Gurudev, and thank you for having me. This moment is significant because it reflects the highest level of devotion, bhakti, and duty or dharma. Sita's insistence on accompanying Ram is not out of defiance but out of unbreakable bond of love and commitment. In the Vedic tradition, we understand that a marriage, especially one as sacred as that of Ram and Sita, is not merely a personal connection, it is a partnership in fulfilling divine purpose. Sita, as the embodiment of virtue and dharma, chooses to walk the difficult path with Ram, even though she could have stayed in the palace. That's beautifully said. Now, from the perspective of the art of living, how do you interpret Sita's decision to accompany Ram given the tough circumstances? Jai Gurudev, and thank you for this opportunity. Sita's decision goes beyond just emotional attachment. It reflects a deep spiritual understanding of life's greater purpose. In our teachings, we often speak about the concept of non attachment or vairagya, where an individual is detached from worldly comforts but remains deeply committed to a higher cause. Sita's willingness to embrace hardship without attachment to material luxuries shows that true devotion is not about comfort or convenience, but about aligning with the highest truth, which in this case is Ram's mission of dharma. She chose to walk alongside him, supporting him emotionally and spiritually, knowing that their path was aligned with the cosmic order. So it is not just about being together physically, but also about sharing in the mission of dharma. Officer, in your opinion, what does this conversation between Ram and Sita tell us about the relationship between husband and wife in the Vedic tradition? The conversation between Ram and Sita is a profound teaching about the roles of spouses. It is often misunderstood that Ram, as a king, is the dominant figure and Sita is merely a passive follower, but in truth, their relationship is based on mutual respect and shared responsibility. Sita's insistence on accompanying Ram is not about blind loyalty, it is a partnership rooted in dharma. In the Vedic view, the role of a wife is not just to follow, but to support, guide, and uphold dharma along with her husband. They are both bound by a higher law, divine dharma, and their bond is a manifestation of that higher purpose. That's a wonderful point. It suggests that the relationship between Ram and Sita was more of an equal partnership than simply a hierarchical one. How does this dialogue reflect the broader theme of sacrifice and spiritual practice, particularly in the context of the art of living? In the art of living, we teach that sacrifice is not about renouncing material things, but about surrendering the ego. True sacrifice involves letting go of personal desires for a greater good. Sita's decision to follow Ram into exile is a perfect example of this. She sacrifices her royal comforts and her personal desires to align with a higher purpose. Ram's mission is to uphold dharma. This speaks to the essence of selfless service or seva, a key principle in the art of living. When we serve without attachment to the outcome, we find true fulfillment. Sita exemplifies this principle through her actions, which were not out of compulsion but out of deep love and understanding of her dharma. There is a lot of depth in both of your responses, officer. Could you share a bit more on the role of dharma in this conversation and how does it guide the actions of both Ram and Sita? Dharma, in the Vedic sense, is not just a set of moral laws, but the very fabric that holds the universe together. It governs the actions of all beings and ensures that alignment of the individual with the greater cosmic order. Ram's exile was a direct command of Dharma, and by accepting it without question, he demonstrated his total commitment to upholding cosmic law. Sita, as his partner, also follows this path because her duty Dharma is intertwined with Ramses. Their relationship is a microcosm of the greater Dharma that governs the universe. The dialogue between them, especially as Sita insists on accompanying Ram, shows how Dharma transcends personal desires and attachments and aligns individuals with a divine will. It sounds like Dharma isn't just about personal duty, but about a cosmic harmony that both individuals align with. How does this idea of cosmic alignment resonate with modern spiritual practices? In modern spiritual practice, we talk about being in harmony with the universe or aligning our actions with the greater flow of life. When we live in alignment with our true nature, we experience peace, joy, and fulfillment. Sita's decision to follow Ram exemplifies this alignment. In our teachings, we encourage individuals to connect with their inner self through meditation and self awareness, which helps them tap into that higher purpose. Sita's path was not dictated by worldly considerations, but by an inner knowing of her greater responsibility. This inner alignment with Dharma is what modern spiritual practices like those taught in the art of living seek to cultivate in individuals today. This conversation between Ram and Sita is truly timeless, and it speaks to the deep spiritual wisdom that transcends generations. Thank you both for sharing your insights. It is clear that this dialogue offers such to reflect upon, not just as a historical event, but as a spiritual teaching that continues to guide us even today. Jai Gurudev, and welcome, and thank you both for joining this meaningful conversation today. We will focus on the most profound moments in the Ramayana, the conversation between Lord Ram and Sita while when he prepares to leave for his 14-year exile and Sita insists on accompanying him. This dialogue has a deep spiritual and moral resonance. To begin, I would like to ask you, officer from the Vedic Dharma Sansthan, why do you think this conversation is so crucial in the epic? Jai Gurudev, and thank you for having me. This moment is pivotal one in the Ramayana, not just in terms of the narrative, but also in terms of spiritual teachings. The insistence of Sita to accompany Lord Ram to the forest for his exile is a perfect illustration of Dharma, the divine law that guides human action in the Vedic context. We see that Sita's decision is not born of mere emotional attachment, but of higher understanding of duty. She recognizes that her role as a wife is not simply to enjoy the pleasures of life, but to support her husband in fulfilling his dharma no matter the circumstances. This is a powerful reminder of the strength of commitment and the alignment with divine will. That's very insightful from a Vedic perspective. Sita's decision to accompany Rama, despite the difficult circumstances, is an example of the highest form of devotion. From your perspective in the art of living, how do you see Sita's role to join Ram on this difficult journey? Jai Gurudev, and thank you for including me in this conversation. From a spiritual perspective, Sita's decision is a beautiful example of selfless love and profound inner strength. In the art of living, we emphasize the importance of surrendering the ego and attachments to the material world. Sita's willingness to leave behind her comforts, her home, and royal life for a life of hardship is a form of this surrender. It is not about abandoning the material world out of rejection, but about aligning oneself with the greater flow of life or dharma. Her action reflects a deep inner connection to her divine purpose and the love of Ram that transcends all worldly attachment. She chooses the path of selfless service, showing that true love is not about possession or comfort, but about sharing in the higher mission, even if it means walking through challenges. So it's about a higher purpose and inner alignment, not just external sacrifice. Officer, in the Vedic tradition, how do you interpret this moment in terms of the sacred bond between husband and wife? In Vedic tradition and dharma, marriage is seen as a partnership in fulfilling not just personal goals but divine purpose. Lord Ram and Sita are not just husband and wife, they are jiva or individual souls united in their collective journey to uphold dharma. Sita's decision to accompany Rama is a reflection of her understanding of their partnership in fulfilling their shared responsibilities. She understands that her dharma is to support Rama, and together they walk the path of righteousness. It is not just about being by his side physically, it's about the spiritual support and commitment that she offers, ensuring that they both fulfill the greater cosmic order. That's a beautiful interpretation. It seems that the relationship goes beyond personal desire and is rooted in shared divine responsibility. From the art of living perspective, how does this moment of Sita and Ram align with the modern teachings of duty and spiritual love? In modern spirituality, we talk about the power of conscious choice and the importance of living in alignment with our deeper values. Sita's action is a powerful example of making conscious choices in alignment with one's values, no matter how difficult the circumstances. In the art of living, we often refer to the art of living with intention. This means aligning ourselves with higher principles like love, compassion, and service, even when external conditions are challenging. Sita's choice is not one driven by external forces. It comes from an internal realization that her higher purpose in this case is to walk alongside Rama, who is the embodiment of Dharma. She reflects the essence of spiritual love, where one's heart and actions are in sync with universal truth. Sita's unwavering devotion and her conscious decision to walk the path of hardship with Ram are truly powerful. Officer, would you say that her action is a form of selfless service or seva? as understood in both the Vedic tradition and modern spiritual practices. Yes, absolutely. In the Vedic tradition, seva is not just a physical act of service, but a deep inner surrender to the divine will, doing one's duty without expectation of reward. Sita's choice to accompany Ram can certainly be seen as seva. She serves Ram not out of duty alone, but from a place of deep spiritual connection. Her role is not just to be with him, but to actively contribute to the mission of upholding dharma even in the face of adversity. This is a profound teaching in the Vedic tradition. True service is an offering of one's heart and actions to the divine. So, Sita's actions are not just a reflection of external duty, but a result of deep inner alignment and meditation on her purpose. Finally, officer, what can we learn from Sita and Ram's conversations that can apply to our modern lives? The conversation between Ram and Sita teaches us the importance of unwavering commitment to our values no matter what external challenges we face. In today's world where comfort and material success often dominate our choices, we must look to Sita's example of walking the path of righteousness, even when it leads through difficult terrains. We are all called to align ourselves with Dharma, whether through our relationships, work, or personal journey. The strength and clarity that Sita demonstrates in this conversation is something we can all strive for, reminding us that true fulfillment comes not from convenience but from living in harmony with the greater divine law and order. It is clear that Sita and Ramsa's conversation offers timeless wisdom. Thank you both for sharing your insights. It seems that their story is not just a part of ancient history but a living guide for us today in how we navigate our relationships, challenges, and our spiritual journeys. Jai Gurudev, and thank you both for being here today. We are about to explore a key moment in the Ramayana, the conversation between Sita and Lord Ram. When he prepares to leave for his 14-year exile and Sita insists on accompanying him, it's a moment of immense emotional and spiritual significance. I would like to start with you, officer from the Vedic Sansthan. Why do you think this conversation between Ram and Sita is so central to the message of the Ramayana? Jagadev, and thank you for having me. The conversation between Ram and Sita during this crucial moment is fundamental because it reveals the deepest principles of dharma and the ideals of devotion and duty. In the Vedic tradition, dharma is the guiding principle that governs both the individual and the cosmos. Sita's decision to accompany Ram is not merely an emotional reaction, it is a conscious alignment with dharma. She understands that her role as a wife is not only to stand by her husband in prosperity, but to share in his trials, his pain, and his spiritual journey. Sita's devotion to Ram exemplifies the highest form of selflessness. It is her way of demonstrating that love and dharma are intertwined and that one's duty must always be fulfilled regardless of personal hardship. So, Sita's action is grounded in a deep understanding of dharma and divine purpose. From the perspective of the art of living, how do you interpret Sita's unwavering decision to join Ram in exile, especially considering the personal sacrifices involved? Jai Gurudev, and thank you for having me to share my thoughts. Sita's decision speaks to the core teachings of the art of living. At the heart of our philosophy is the concept of seva, selfless service, and aligning one's life with a higher purpose. Sita's choice to accompany Ram is not motivated by attachment or desire, but by an understanding of her divine role in the world. She chooses to embody seva at the highest level, surrendering personal comfort, safety, and even her own desires in order to fulfill her duty. In our modern context, we often talk about being in alignment with one's higher self, and Sita's action reflects this perfectly. Her willingness to embrace the challenges of the forest without attachment to luxury or worldly status is an act of complete self surrender. This aligns with our spiritual practice, where through meditation and inner work, we learn to detach from ego and worldly desires while still performing our duties with dedication and love. That's a profound interpretation. Sita's act of devotion is truly one of selflessness and spiritual clarity. Officer, what can we understand from this conversation? In terms of the relationship between Lord Ram and Sita, it is often said that their bond transcends the personal. What does this mean in the Vedic context? Yes, their relationship is a beautiful example of the spiritual ideals of Dharma. In the Vedic tradition, the concept of marriage is not merely seen as a personal or emotional connection, but as a sacred partnership where both partners are united in fulfilling the divine mission. The marriage of Ram and Sita is not just between two individuals, it represents a union of two divine energies, each embodying virtues such as truth, duty, compassion, and righteousness. Sita's insistence on accompanying Ram in his exile is an expression of her understanding of this divine partnership. She is not merely a wife in the worldly sense, but a spiritual partner whose actions reflect her alignment with the greater cosmic law of Dharma. In the Vedic framework, marriage is seen as a vehicle for fulfilling the highest purpose, and Sita, by joining Ram in his exile, demonstrates her complete commitment to supporting him in this higher purpose. Their relationship reflects the ultimate ideal of mutual support, devotion, and spiritual growth. So their marriage transcends a mere companionship and becomes a deeper spiritual partnership. In the teachings of the Art of Living, we talk about the importance of the union of the inner masculine and feminine energies. How does Sita and Ram's relationship mirror this concept? That's an excellent question. In spiritual terms, Ram and Sita represent the harmonious union of the inner masculine and feminine energies. Ram, as the embodiment of Dharma and rational wisdom, represents the masculine principle, while Sita, embodying bhakti, devotion, and intuition, represents the feminine. Together, they form a perfect balance of strength and surrender, action and love. The relationship between the masculine and feminine energies is not about gender roles but about spiritual balance. Ram cannot fulfill his mission without Sita, and similarly, Sita's purpose is fulfilled in her unwavering support of Rama. This relationship reflects the ideal spiritual partnership where both energies are in perfect harmony. In our modern practices, we talk about integrating these energies within ourselves. For instance, through meditation, we cultivate both the clarity and decision making capacity of the masculine and the love and compassion of the feminine. Sita's decision to accompany Ram is an example of how, when these energies are balanced, one acts in alignment with the divine will, unshaken by external challenges. That's a beautiful way to describe their relationship. Now, officer, we see that Sita's decision is one of both emotional and spiritual fortitude in the Vedic tradition. How does this decision relate to the concepts of tapas, or austerity, and vairagya, or renunciation? Sita's decision is indeed rooted in both tapas and vairagya. Tapas refers to spiritual discipline, austerity, and the ability to endure hardship in the pursuit of spiritual goals. Sita, in agreeing to leave the comforts of the palace for the harsh life in the forest, embodies tapas. She is ready to endure physical hardship and emotional pain to uphold her dharma and support Ram. Her commitment to this path, even in the face of difficulty, is a supreme act of discipline and inner strength. Vairagya is a supreme act of discipline and inner strength. Vairagya, or renunciation, is the ability to detach from the material desires and worldly attachments in order to focus on the spiritual path. Sita's renunciation is not just of material wealth but of the idea of comfort and luxury. She chooses to follow Ram even into a life of exile because her attachment to him is not based on worldly pleasures but on a higher spiritual connection. Through this act of renunciation, Sita demonstrates her complete devotion to the divine and her willingness to transcend worldly attachments in service of a greater purpose. Sita's ability to embrace tapas and vairagya shows her profound spiritual depth. Do you see any modern lessons in Sita's commitment to Ram and her understanding of duty, especially in the context of contemporary spiritual practice? Absolutely. In a modern world where we are often distracted by the pursuit of discomfort and material success, Sita's example teaches us that true fulfillment comes from aligning ourselves with our higher purpose, not from external achievements. Her commitment to Rama's mission is a reminder that the spiritual path requires sacrifice not just of external comforts but of the ego, attachments, and the personal desires. Through meditation and introspection. We learn to detach from the transient pleasures of life and focus on the deeper connection to our inner selves and the divine. Sita's journey is a beautiful metaphor for this process. By renouncing her attachments to worldly comforts and embracing her duty, she aligns herself with a higher consciousness. This is the essence of modern spiritual practice, aligning with the divine will and surrendering to the greater flow of life. It seems that Sita's choice to accompany Ram is not just a personal sacrifice but a spiritual awakening. Thank you both for sharing your profound insights. This conversation between Ram and Sita continues to be a guiding light for us, teaching us about love, duty, and the path of true devotion. Jai Gurudev. Jai Gurudev, welcome to both of you. Today we are delving into a deeply significant moment from the Ramayana. The conversation between Lord Ram and Sita. When Ram leaves for his 14-year exile and Sita insists on accompanying him, this moment is filled with emotion, sacrifice, and deep spiritual wisdom. I would like to start with you, officer from the Vedic Dharma Sansthan. Why do you think Sita's insistence on accompanying Ram is such a crucial part of the Ramayana's message? Jai Gurudev, and thank you for having me. The moment when Sita insists on accompanying Ram to the forest is essential in understanding the core principles of dharma, righteous duty, and the relationship between a husband and wife. In the Vedic tradition, marriage is not seen merely as a contractual relationship, but as a sacred bond in which both partners support each other in fulfilling their divine role. Sita's decision transcends emotional attachment. She knows that her dharma as a wife is to stand by Rama, not just in prosperity but also in adversity. By insisting on accompanying Rama to the forest, she is demonstrating the highest form of commitment and devotion, not just to him but to the dharma that they both must uphold. In the Vedic tradition, there is no separation between personal love and the larger cosmic law. Sita's choice to share in Ram's exile is a spiritual choice that teaches us about the nature of true love, which is selfless and unconditional. That's a powerful perspective. Love and duty intertwined in a sacred partnership. From the art of living perspective, how do you interpret Sita's decision to accompany Ram, especially considering the personal hardship involved? Jai Gurudev, and thank you for the opportunity. From the viewpoint of the art of living, Sita's decision reflects the essence of selfless service or seva and the deeper understanding of one's inner purpose. When we speak about service, it is not just about external actions, it is about aligning one's heart with a higher mission. Sita's act of devotion is not born out of attachment to Ram alone, but to the divine purpose that they both serve. In modern spiritual practices, we emphasize connecting with a higher truth, which is often about transcending ego and attachment. Sita's choice is an example of this transcendence. She doesn't allow or follow Ram out of personal desire for comfort or luxury, but she understands the deeper spiritual mission they must fulfill together. By surrendering her attachment to material wealth and status, she embraces Vairagya, renunciation, and walks the path of hardship in full awareness of the greater divine purpose. This act of surrender is something we cultivate in modern spiritual practices through meditation and self inquiry, allowing us to align with our higher purpose. That's beautifully put. Sita's action is rooted in a deeper spiritual awareness of duty. Officer from the Vedic tradition, how do we interpret the spiritual significance of Sita's role in Ram's journey? Is it only about sacrifice?